Class plus one, book Hornbill, and the chapter is The Portrait of a Lady by Khushwant Singh. Khushwant Singh is a famous Indian writer of English. He was born in 1915 and received his education in Lahore, Delhi, and London. He is often referred to as a versatile humorist, commentator, editor, short story writer, and a novelist. He has an easy narrative style. His novel, A Train to Pakistan, based on turmoil and trauma of partition of India and Pakistan, has been made into a full-length feature film. Khushwant Singh primarily writes about his perceptions and interactions with places and people he has come in contact with. The Portrait of a Lady is autobiographical in nature as it describes the author's association with his grandmother and the changes that come about in their relationship. It is a loving tribute from a grandson to his grandmother, where he reminisces about the emotional bond he shared with her. In the chapter The Portrait of the Lady, Khushwant Singh has given an account of his grandmother. He draws a lifelike portrait. She was very old, her face was wrinkled, her hair was white. It was hard to believe that once she had been young and pretty. Khushwant Singh's grandmother was a short lady. She was fat and slightly bent. She could not walk straight. She hobbled about the house. She had to keep one hand on her waist. It was to balance her stoop. In the other, she held a rosary. She was always telling the beads. Her lips constantly moved in prayers. She put on her white clothes. Her silver locks scattered over her pale face. She looked like snowy mountains in winter. She was a picture of peace and contentment. She was very old, perhaps she could not have looked older. She looked the same for the last 20 years. Chapter is divided into three phases. The first phase is when Khushwant Singh was living with his grandmother in the village. It was a time when author's parents moved to the city and left him behind in the village with the grandmother. So here they both became good friends. Grandmother used to follow a daily routine. She used to wake him up in the early morning, used to give him a bath, dressed him and got ready him for the school and plastered his slate. Also, she used to sing morning prayers all the while to make the author imbibe them. She used breakfast of stale chapatis with butter and sugar. She accompanied author to the village school, which was attached to the temple where priest taught the children. Grandmother read holy books and scriptures in the temple while author studied alphabet and morning prayers in the school. After school, they both walked back home feeding stale chapatis to the village dogs. Second phase is when grandmother and the author both shifted to the city from village to author's parents' house. Over there, both shared a common room, but grandmother got isolated because author got admitted in an English medium school. He used to travel by a motor bus. Grandmother was unhappy because author was taught English, science and music in the school. She was distressed at the lack of religion-based education was not proffered and taught in the city schools. Grandmother showed displeasure by ceasing to talk to the author over here. Moreover, there were no street dogs to be fed in the city. Third phase is when the common link between the friendship of the grandmother and Khushwant Singh got snapped. It was a time when author was separated from her and joined the university. Grandmother quietly accepted her seculation. She devoted herself to spinning the wheel and reciting prayers from morning till evening. The happiest hour for her in the whole day used to be when she fed breadcrumbs to numerous of sparrows every afternoon. After some time, author went abroad for the higher education. Grandmother accepted this with his solicitation. Grandmother saw off the author at the railway station and kissed his forehead. Author cherished it as the last physical contact between the two. When after 5 years, author came back, grandmother was there to receive him at the station. In her happiness, next morning grandmother gathered neighborhood women and sang songs beating an old drum. That was the first time when she skipped her prayers. She was taken ill. Aware that her end was approaching, she regretted for her folly of giving up the prayer the previous day. She resisted to meet anyone to have her last prayer. She died with prayers on her lips and rosary in her hands. Her corpse was taken back to her home from the hospital. With the setting of the sun, grandmother's city friends, the birds, arrived to pay their last respect. But that was a time when not a single bird chirped. In fact, the birds refused the breadcrumbs offered by the author's mother. They simply flew away quietly when grandmother's body was carried away for the funeral.